Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to draw a breakfast tray complete with cereal bowl, cereal packet and a cup of tea or coffee. So first of all, I'm just drawing out the basic shapes as usual, and we've got rectangles and cylinders and ellipses in this picture. Just to talk a little bit about basic supplies, we've just used copy paper, or you can use any plain paper that you have lying around, or if you've got a sketchbook, then great. And pencil, it's just an HB, which is your standard pencil, which means basically any pencil that you happen to have in the house will do. You will also need an eraser and a pencil sharpener to sharpen your pencil. Now I always start off by trying to draw basic shapes, working out where things go, and then draw the overall shape of the whole composition. So like the outline of the composition, and then fill in each individual thing. But first of all, I just do it very roughly just to work out where things are. And then I keep going back and back and back and refining it until I'm happy with the drawing. And I really want to get the drawing correct first, because that is like the skeleton for your whole basic work, and the drawing must be right. And the shading or colouring, if you're doing watercolours or anything, is very much the secondary thing, but the drawing is the basic thing to get correct. And don't be afraid to use a ruler. I use a ruler and then I go over it with my own hand-drawn lines, because I don't want a perfectly ruled line. I want it to look like it's drawn, but I do find that a ruler helps me because I'm not always that good at drawing straight lines. And just keep coming in again and again until you're happy with it. And pay attention to the angles of things, and kind of move your pencil across to the thing that you're drawing and sort of close one eye and look at the angle, and then try to transfer that to your paper. Because sometimes you will think that something has an angle and you've drawn it correctly, and when you hold your pencil up to it, you see that it's actually quite a long way off. So carry on drawing around the object. Now I'm refining the line around it, and here it is completely done. So I've now got the outline for the whole composition. Now I'll come back in and draw the individual items within that composition. And it's really important to work out how one object relates to another, and how each object overlaps one another. So look at where, for instance, on the cup, how far up the bowl comes on the cup, how far up the bowl comes on the marmalade jar. And it's important to think that particularly from the thing which is closest to you, which isn't hidden by other things. So the bowl is not hidden by the marmalade jar or the cup. So you have to think about where that is in relationship to the other things. Also, the cereal packet is the same. The bowl overlaps that as well. And again, just keep coming back and refining the line again and again and again. And each time you look at it, you'll notice something different within the composition. and I'm coming in and drawing more of the details. At this time there's no shading, this is still a contour drawing with just the line. I won't think about shading it until I've got all the patterns and elements drawn. Then I'll come in and start shading. I hope everyone's keeping healthy and happy, and it's been a lovely weekend here. We've had our VE Day, 75 years since the end of the war, celebrations here, and we had our driveway rather than street party. It was driveway parties, and we all social distanced and kept to the rules, but it was really nice to chat with the neighbours and see that there are still people out there, because you do tend to get a bit of a feeling that there's nobody else around. So are they really in their houses, or is just we the last people left on earth? But it was really refreshing to chat with everybody. I know I'm very fortunate in living in a very, very beautiful part of the country and living rurally, so that we have lovely walks and views, beautiful views across countryside. So I do understand that I am privileged, and I appreciate it. And the birds are out there singing again. So now I'm coming in with shading, and to me the most prominent thing was that K on the cereal packet. So I've shaded that in first because to me that is the thing that stands out. And then I just fill in the other elements. Thinking about which is the darkest piece of printing on the box, which is not the K, but it was one of the kind of swirly flaggy bits, which was dark blue, plus the writing. And there is a limit when you're using an HB pencil to how dark it can go. So whatever is the darkest thing, go as dark as you can, and then realise that everything else has to be lighter than that. And that even though the cereal packet is basic background is white, because it's partially in shadow, some bits of it will not be white, and those bits you will have to actually shade in, but very pale grey. The other thing to think about when you're doing a drawing, any drawing, is not only which is the darkest thing, but which is the lightest thing. Where are the highlights falling? And we had highlights, as you'll see later, on the cereal bowl and also on the lid of the jam jar. And I think there were a couple of highlights actually on the jam jar, the glass itself. So it's worth drawing those highlights in and then trying not to shade over the top of them. And I think one of the things about art is noticing things, like the flap on the cereal box. Notice that although the flap takes up a sort of kind of long thin rectangle, you've also got a little bit where it goes up, where there's in fact two flaps on the top of the cereal box, and where those two flaps overlap, it kind of goes up and one goes behind the other, and you can draw things like that, and it's little details like that that really make your drawing look realistic. And the shadow that one flap on top of another forms. So all the time when you're drawing, you need to be thinking about things like that and just seeing these things as shapes, not as, oh, I'm drawing a marmalade jar or I'm drawing a cereal box. Think about the shapes, where the darks and lights are, which is what I'm trying to put in at the moment, and the same for the lid. And it will help you immensely not identifying in your mind what the actual object is that you're drawing, but just a series of shapes. And here I'm trying to reserve some of those highlights on the lid. But the lid also contained with the writing, and there's some rings on it. Those were kind of some of the darkest of the whole drawing. And again, the tea or coffee is quite dark. I think it was a black tea. I had difficulty with the open handles on the tray, and I'm not convinced really in the end I even got them right, because they don't actually match up one side to the other. So it's things like that that you really have to think about. Remember, by the cereal box, where the tray handle goes behind the cereal box, it will be darker because there'll be a shadow from the cereal box. Now the spoon, which is silver, really to make the colour silver, it's just coming in and drawing lots of shadows, but also preserving the very light bits, the whitish bits on the spoon. And adding the shadow underneath the spoon and underneath the cup handle really makes the whole thing come alive for more. I'm coming in and shading the actual bowl here. There is a tiny flower pattern on the bowl itself, but it's actually quite subtle. So I'm trying to make it subtle even in my drawing. And the rim, there are highlights and lowlights on the rim, which, if you can capture those, will make it look more round and elliptical. And just observe where the dark bits are on the shading of the bowl. They're at the two sides of the ellipse. Coming in and pushing some shadows in. And then going over the wood and putting, like this was a wooden sided tray, and putting in the nail holes and things like that, just make it look more realistic. And here's the photo, the source photo, and here is the finished item. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. Please like, share and subscribe to see more. Stay safe, stay home, stay healthy. Bye!